So I get on the call, and like so much as a coach, what people ask you for or what they tell you is the problem isn't really the problem, right? It's not what you think it is. It's usually something deeper. So I start to talk to him, and then he says, "Hey, can you meet with my stepson? He needs some help, and you could mentor him. And can you also do that?" I was like, okay. So all of a sudden now I'm this, part-time mentor for the number 2 at the company, which happens to be his stepson. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. Like I'll include him in some of the stuff we're doing, some of the things we're doing to build up business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Karl Becker, founder of Improving Sales Performance and founder and president of Live Event Production Academy, whose 30 years as a consultant, coach, entrepreneur, speaker, and author has given him unique insight into what actually drives meaningful business transformation. What sets Karl apart is his practical, collaborative approach that connects strategy, people, process, and execution rather than treating these as separate initiatives, helping organizations build high-performing sales teams while strengthening customer relationships and operational alignment. Karl's expertise spans from optimizing sales strategy and revenue operations to elevating entire industries through immersive learning and AI-supported training, as evidenced by his work with Live Event Production Academy. As the author of Set Up to Win, Sales and Marketing Alignment, and Iceberg Selling, he focuses on actionable strategies that teams can implement immediately, proving that sustainable growth happens when you align talent development with systematic process improvement. Welcome to the show, Karl.
Yeah, thank you. That was a nice introduction. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you being here. And by the way, you're the one to blame about the introduction, okay? That was not my doing. That's all you. Okay, Karl? Now, I'm a comic book nerd myself. I like to go back to the first edition, the origin story, so I can get the full picture, okay? So let's rewind a bit. Because every coach has that moment where they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now. So when was that for you, Karl?
I'm going to tell you, like all good superheroes, it was an accident. I didn't realize that I had this superpower. And I'll tell you the story. So I've always been an entrepreneur. And I think part of being a coach is really understanding the environment, kind of the ecosystem you're in and your clients in, and not looking at things just in one dimension, like looking at it from a lot of different vantage points. And as an entrepreneur, even when I was a little kid, I think that was a natural thing for me, because as I got older and I became a man and looked back at my childhood, I was like, oh my gosh, I was undiagnosed with dyslexia. I definitely have some learning challenges. And so I had to learn to be in the world differently. And that was by piecing together all the different elements that were in my environment and then making sense out of that to get the answer, whether it was a math problem or, being embarrassed standing up and reading in school. I had to figure out how to solve those things. So I think I was already kind of primed to be a person that looked at things holistically versus just kind of like narrow-minded one track. But the accidental part became I was running a couple different companies. I ran a marketing company for about 10 years. And then from there, I ran an outbound business development, sales development company. And after about 8 years of doing that, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Like I want to impact companies in a much bigger way. And I actually was getting recruited to become a VP of a sales organization. And so I'm going through the interview process and I'm like, I just stopped this other business. I'm about to take the jump into being a full-time employee. And I hadn't been a full-time employee except for maybe 1 year of my life. And I was in my probably early 40s at this time. And I was like, I don't know, this isn't a fit. And the phone rings and it's a friend from my past. He's like, oh man, will you come in and coach my team? I go, what do you mean? He's like, I've worked with you for years, know what you do. Can you come in and like build my sales organization? I've got 2 guys that are really young. They need a mentor. I would love for you to come and do that. I'll pay you $250 an hour. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. Yes, I'll be there tomorrow. And I realized I didn't want to go down the track of being a VP of sales at a company. I'd rather go in and make a difference in a lot of different companies. So I started working at this particular organization where my friend worked. And they also were very like, altruistic. They were kind of related to cause, nonprofit type work. And after being in there for a month, I started getting calls from other people from my past. Hey, I hear you're doing this. Do you want to do it? And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm an accidental fractional VP of sales and like leadership / team coach. Holy cow. All the things that I've been doing my entire life have now built an amazing toolbox. And I've got some gray hair to show that I know what I'm doing. And I just became a fractional sales leader / consultant / sales coach.
A lot of slash out there. I love it. I love the story. Okay. So organic, right? Kind of grew into you and you were kind of pushed into it. I like that. Now, I'm curious about one thing. There's a shift that happens in identity, right? It's when you're a business owner and all that, and you had what's going on for you back in a while. And then you're like sometimes in a birthday party and people are asking, hey, what do you do for a living? You're like, I'm a coach. And you're like, whoa, I just said that, right? So how did that work out for you? Can you walk me through that identity shift when you realize you were actually a coach? I'm not sure if it's the first paying client you had that you mentioned, or even the first invoice, or how did that look like for you?
Well, it's funny. We talked about superpowers. So a couple other people had hired me. I probably had 3 clients at the time, and I was definitely doing kind of 2 different hats. Hat one being an extension of their leadership team and running their sales organization, building it, making it better. And number 2, like a lot of one-to-one mentor work with the people in the sales and marketing organizations. But what I found, what I was doing too, is I was mentoring and coaching the leaders of the company, the owners of the company. And all these lessons learned and all these battle scars I had from running my own company since I was a kid allowed me to sit in any office in that building, if you will. Like I had cleaned the toilets, I had loaded docks, I had packed up boxes, I had done everything. And so I could relate to almost anyone in the organization. And so this one client, his name is Matt. He goes, hey, will you come? We're doing kind of this business development / I guess I like to say / business development / client appreciation dinner. And I'd love for you to be there. And I said, why? And he goes, well, 1, you're part of the team. And 2, I know you can work a crowd and I want you to be like my wingman and walk me around. And I started to laugh. And I was like, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And so we talk about superpowers. I'm talking to this woman named Karen. She goes, what do you do for a living? And it was like the first time I had to figure out how I'm going to say this. And I said, well, before I answer that, what's your superpower, Karen? And I can't remember what she told me, but she told me something. I was like, that's great. She goes, I love that. What's your superpower? What's your superpower? And I go, well, I teach people like you to be able to tell people what their superpower is. So at a party like this, they kind of can connect. And she goes, that's amazing. So how'd I do? And we kind of started to coach in real world. And she goes, I love that. She goes, will you come and do this to my team? Will you run a couple sessions? And I was like, I guess I have a 4th client now, right? So it was kind of just real world, being authentic, knowing how to create a way of communicating that someone digested what you said and then gave you another 30 seconds or another minute to explain more. So I think that was the first time I really had to say it, when I was at this dinner party and somebody asked me straight up, what do you do for a living? I was like, this is a complicated answer. And then we made it really simple.
Right. Well, first of all, I need to provide you with some context. I was in sales too. I was a high ticket sales closer for a landscape business coach, for a while. But the tie down you made with Karen, oh my God, you're like, that's sales 100%. Okay. You're like, what do you do? Okay. Boom, boom, this and that. Okay. I love that. Now, I want to understand one thing, because after you got rolling, who are the people that kept showing up? Coaches in the early days, they're trying to help everyone. But I want you to walk me through the ones you realize, okay, this is my tribe. This is the people I can really help. Yeah. Who are they?
Well, I guess I would tell you what I am very fortunate about is I get texts every week from current clients and past clients checking in on me, telling me they miss me. And what's always bananas to me is I've got a bunch of, they're dudes. They're all these different dudes, probably between 35 and 55. And I hear from them throughout the month, and they'll be like, hey man, I really miss you. Love you. Hope you're doing well. And I'm like, I am in a world where grown men text me and say they love me. And this is bananas. And I know where it's coming from because we've built so much trust. We've been through so many things together. They've shared at such an authentic level that I am like family. I am someone that they trust and that they do love and they do care about. And I know this is like, that's crazy. You're in business and that's the output. But I didn't get there. That wasn't what I originally said I'm playing for. I wasn't like, I'm going to, come and impact people's lives and I'm going to be in my 50s and people that I know all over the country are going to send me texts like this. Like that's not what I woke up and said. I was like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to help companies work together. Here's a confession. I was never great at building teams when I had my own companies. That was my blind spot. And at one point in time, I'm in front of a peer group and I start talking about my team and how frustrated I am and no one can do the work like I can. And they all call me out. And it was this pivotal moment where I was like, no, I'm falling in the same trap that every business entrepreneur owner does, where nobody can do it as well as them. And that's why they keep hitting the ceiling and they're working 7 days a week and late at night and la, la, la. And I was like, I'm that guy. So to answer your question, who's kind of the good fits for me? Well, I was speaking at a conference and about a month later, I see somebody kind of looking at my LinkedIn profile. I'm on vacation and then I get a LinkedIn message request. And I turn to my family. I'm like, I think I'm about to get hired by this guy out of Canada. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, he went to the conference. He just stalked me on LinkedIn. He sent me an invite. I know where this is going. And so the next day, sure enough, he was like, can we talk? And he tells me all about the dynamic at his company and that they want to grow and they need help with business development. But as I start to talk more and more, it's clear the leadership team, which he's all related to, was not a team. And it was highly, highly dysfunctional. So I get on the call and like so much as a coach, what people ask you for or what they tell you is the problem isn't really the problem, right? It's not what you think it is. It's usually something deeper. So I start to talk to him and then he says, hey, can you meet with my stepson? He needs some help and you could mentor him. And can you also do that? I was like, okay. So all of a sudden now I'm this, part-time mentor for the number 2 at the company, which happens to be his stepson. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. Like I'll include him in some of the stuff we're doing, some of the things we're doing to build up business. So I get on the call with his stepson. I'll never forget this. And he's like, hey, did he tell you that I'm his stepson? I go, yeah. He goes, did he tell you how he married my mom and that they were dating for 2 years and I didn't even know? And then did he tell you that I was working for him at the time? And then did he tell you that, he fired me a month after they got married and he just now hired me back 3 years later. And I'm like, no, he did not tell me any of those things.
So much drama.
Why don't you tell me those stories and tell me what you wish your reality looked like and how would you want this company to run and what would you want to be in it and what would you like your relationship to be with this person? He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And all of a sudden I was like, I guess I'm part therapist too, even though I didn't know that this was what I'm going to do. And so fast forward, we worked together for 6.5 years. Their Christmases and Thanksgivings are now very pleasant. They work very well as a team. They've all matured. They've all kind of grown. And I would say I was really pivotal in that. So for me, the good fits are people that aren't just trying to, like I help people generate more revenue, but if they're looking for the quick magic bullet that I'll snap my fingers and magic money will show up, I'm not that guy. But if there's somebody that's like, I know there's something here at my company. I know if we just could bring people together. I know if we got a little bit more intentional and just maybe, I don't know what's missing, but if you could do that, then I'm game. And it's really a commitment to being of service and building a team and unpacking whatever might be there, even if you don't know that's what you're going to do. And then once everything's out on the table, figuring out how to reassemble it. If I can find people that are like, yeah, I'm going to do that work, then we always have a great engagement. And it's very satisfying. It's the ones that it feels more mechanical and they're driven by top line or just the budget, the profitability at the end of the year. I mean, I have those, but I would say 90% of my engagements, they're playing for something a lot deeper than that. They're playing for culture, team, to be a place that they want to be every day at work.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's interesting. I want to do an exercise with you. Okay. Quick exercise, if you don't mind. I want to pretend I'm your ICP, your ideal client profile. You kind of mentioned 35 to 45 dudes, right? People that are just not interested in the bottom line, but there's something deeper that they need to fix. And they kind of know it, but they can't pinpoint exactly what it is. So first of all, marketing wise, how would I be able to find you in the first place? And I know you mentioned some webinars or something like that with a past client, but today, how would that look like? Marketing.
Well, I guess I would say I would actually turn it around. I'm very careful about who all I bring on, and I can't take a ton of clients. So finding a lot of new clients isn't like my problem. Now, as I have other consultants and, finding opportunities for them, sure, yes. So in general, people will listen to me on a podcast. They might come across my book. They might be part of some of the groups I'm part of and somebody refers them. From a true inbound, it's not super intense. Like it's usually somebody's seen a post on LinkedIn, or they're a friend of a friend, or they saw me speak, or they read my book, or, I've definitely had clients hand my book to other people and then they read it. But from a true, like some sort of inbound repeatable strategy, I don't really have that fully designed.
Okay. Keep it on the exercise here, okay? Let's say I'm the ICP still. I listened to you at a podcast. Oh, and even I read it through your book, or maybe checked your LinkedIn, right? And I'm like, hey, this looks nice. It resonated with me. I want to work with you. I want to speed up the process a little bit. Let's say I went through the sales process. You're not at capacity at this point. Okay, I understand where you're coming from. But let's say there is room to take me in, to onboard me. So potentially you have different offers, right? So walk me through the main one if that's tricky to explain, because I want to be on the point of view of the ICP who's being onboarded. So how does it look like to work with you, Karl, in your business? And what are the potential outcomes I can expect out of it?
Yeah, sure. So in general, we would have had a conversation that started where I learned about what you were really trying to solve, right? So whatever that is, and let's just say um, you want to increase revenue over the next 18 months, and you have some sales team that you're not 100% sure on, and maybe you're thinking about hiring someone to do business development, something like that. Right. Normally, I go through 2 or 3, you call them coaching sessions, working sessions, where we're just kind of talking about your challenges and I'm sharing how we solve them. I don't charge for those. That's part of kind of like, I'm a firm believer of experiencing who we are before we move forward and kind of witnessing the brand firsthand. And for me, I would much rather have a strong qualification process for both of us than just start working with someone. So with that said, the general process usually, I'll give you kind of the normal one, and then there's an abbreviated. The normal one is once we kind of get an agreement that we're talking and there might be something here, it's a multi-step process. There's a revenue equation diagnostic, which is from my first book, Set Up to Win, where we kind of understand your current state. And I can usually do that quickly as a quick exercise. But then if it makes sense and you want to activate with your team, that's actually a way to indoctrinate and get your team on board to kind of go, I see where we're going. He's not just bringing in a sales coach to give us the magic words to close. They're actually solving this at the root cause and they're going to involve me. We're going to co-create this solution. So the first one is going through the revenue equation diagnostic, and then from there, building a roadmap. That roadmap has quick wins planned for 6 months, 12 months, and 18. And then from there, if we activate, we were working on foundations and we're co-creating, building all these foundations together of what the sales organization needs to build a sales organization. From there, either at the same time or shortly thereafter, we start coming in as a fractional sales leader / kind of coach mentor with the team, usually sitting with the leadership team and then different levels of the revenue organization and running their sales meetings, their marketing meetings. We call them workshops or working sessions, and then doing a lot of one-to-ones. And so everything is laddered up to that roadmap. That's kind of the traditional trajectory. Now, we might have somebody call in, and like I just had a call earlier today. Guy saw me at a conference 2.5 weeks ago, wanted to join my peer group. We also do peer groups. So in his vertical, we have a peer group vertical, and he wanted to join it. But as we started to talk and kind of did that consultative conversation, he said, hey, can I just hire you hourly to talk to you about some stuff? And the answer was yes, because I could tell he's a sales leader and he was trying to figure out how to fix the sales organization. So it was very much in line with what we would have already done in our kind of our full process. Because a lot of times we'll implement that same process and have the VP of sales act as the consultant. So we're coaching the consultant, if you will, instead of being the consultant ourselves. And so that was kind of more of a path to that, because clearly he didn't need a fractional sales leader. He needs support and coaching for his role, and the way we do it fits him. So that's kind of the trajectory.
Okay, so you give yourself some leeway when it makes sense. That's one thing I caught up. Also, your work seems pretty hands-on, right? We're talking about it sounds like a very value-driven organization, right? It's not just about dollars. It's about seeing the true intention, where you're going with this. Also, the discovery, very customized experience, right? So I'm going to throw you a curveball here, because I see a lot of coaches out there advocating against burnout, and sometimes they're burning themselves out, right? Because it's a very passion-driven industry. So, Karl, how do you think about capacity so you don't stretch yourself too thin?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's probably a common question, common challenge most coaches or consultancies have. You definitely have a seller doer model in most of these organizations. So for me, like I mentioned, I have 3 books and we have a very systematic way of how we do things. And you also mentioned at the beginning that I'm the founder of a Live Event Production Academy. So Live Event Production Academy has a partnership with a company called Steam Lab. Steam Lab is an AI course generating platform. And so what we've done is we've taken all of our content, all the books content, and how we build the framework for our clients and built training courses where I onboard my consultants. So the way I onboard my consultants is they go through these courses, they kind of understand kind of the ethos, how we do things. And then there's a peer group that we run internally each week for those consultants that are working under the Improving Sales Performance brand. And then we have a program where there's kind of a job shadowing, if you will. But ultimately, it's up to them to find their accounts. We're going to support them, help them close it. If I need to come into a conversation and kind of share the background and how it all works, I will. But ultimately, they need to own that. So the way we've solved that problem is empowering consultants to be able to have like an 80-20. They use our framework as kind of 80% of what they do. And that 20 allows them to have freedom and to be able to kind of freestyle as they go.
Interesting.
But yes,
Now,
it is.
I want
Go ahead.
it. No, it's always a challenge, the capacity side, right? That's what basically we were going to agree upon.
Absolutely. It
Okay.
is very, very challenging because ultimately, if you're a coach, you're talking to people all day long. And it's a rare bird that fills them up by the end of every day, that they feel like they're ready to go out and tackle the world.
Right. Okay. Now, I want to shift gears for a second, if you don't mind, Carl. I want to talk about future a little bit. I'm curious, where you're taking all this, Carl. Looking ahead, where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about hiring, scaling, or is there a next step you're excited about?
Yeah. So I'm not someone that's driven by a very clear, tangible goal. I'm more of a directional guy and more of somebody that's playing for both the tangible and intangible. Tangible would be, I need to be at 50 million in 10 years, intangible would be, I want to really enjoy all the consultants I work with and have kind of a group of people that I want to hang out with and learn from. And hopefully once a quarter, we're doing events together and we're learning. And in the next 10 years of my life, I've got a built-in friend network. That's kind of the intangible. I live more in that world. So for me, over the next 10 years, I want to continue to do what I'm doing part-time, continue to build the organization and have really great consultants that are aligned with core values, that they are driven by the same thing. And, we're doing great top line. We have really nice bottom line margin, but everyone that's part of the team is doing well. And whether they want to work part-time or full-time, they're able to do that so that it kind of becomes the lifestyle that they want, that this supports. And there's a lot of teammates in there that just enjoy hanging out and learning from each other. And we impact a lot of people's organizations and make their lives better. Does that mean there's 30 consultants, 50? Maybe. I think it's really more about, can this be an organization that feels good every day?
Okay, I love the intangible approach, the way you framed that. Very interesting. Okay, now, of course, whenever we're aiming towards the next chapter, Carl, there's always something we're refining in the present, as you already know as a business owner. So, what are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business right now?
Yeah. Boy, that's a big question. I think for me, most of it is ensuring that the model we've built of how we bring on a new consultant and empower them with the tools continues to work. Right now, the majority of the consultants that are in that have worked with me for years. So like there's already a starting place that wasn't at zero. And, as we go into Q3 and Q4, we'll be bringing on new consultants that I might not have a history with. And so for me, the challenge is going to be, well, what we designed, does it work when we start to recruit and bring in people that haven't been experiencing the brand for the last few years? To me, it's exciting. I think it's going to work well, but it's still the unknown.
Okay, now, I want to ask you one thing. Well, first of all, it got me really curious when you brought up that client you had from 6.5 years ago, something like that,
Yeah.
with the stepson and all that. And the reason you got me curious is because you mentioned something very interesting. You said, like, sometimes they bring me for a reason, but there's something deeper, right? So for your situation, I'm always thinking, like, for example, someone hires you, right? That's the paying client. And they're like, hey, Carl, my team doesn't work or it's not working. There's something out there. Then you hop on and you start to understand that the problem is leadership. It's the guy that's paying you. Okay. So, Carl, how do you navigate that conversation with a paying client to tell him, hey, buddy, actually, it's you? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, I would say, first of all, most of the folks that start working are open to that. They have a psychographic where they're open to change. They usually are already doing something in their lives around professional development or personal development. Usually, not always, but if somebody comes in and they're blaming everyone else, that's usually not a good fit. If they're coming in and saying, I want to make it better, and hey, maybe it's me, and in the intake call, I might say, what if it's you? What, and depending on their answer. But ultimately, I think what I'm able to do, especially when I'm the coach, I'd like to think that my other teammates can do the same thing. But if we're just talking about me as a human being, I've run enough companies and I've looked at myself in the mirror and realized I'm the problem. I've had that day. And so I think being able to relate and say, hey, are you open to hearing something? Or I have something I want to share. Are you at a place where we can talk about it? Because it might be intense for you. And if they're like, no, I'm not, then I actually go, no worries. We'll talk about some other time. Because if I start telling them, it moves from coaching to abuse. But for me, I need them to. I'm a storyteller, so I'm probably going to say something like, "Hey, when you were in this meeting today, I saw a lot of myself 10 years ago in a prior company. What I saw was this, and I had one day where I woke up and I realized, oh my gosh, the way I'm talking to these folks isn't really resonating and hitting. And I don't know if you know that, but I think that happened today. We have a conversation about this. So I'm usually pretty good at helping them understand that I'm there to support. I'm there to help. I've been in their shoes or I've had a similar situation, and I'm not there to judge them or tell them they're a bad person. I'm just there to help them see something differently. And then from there, hopefully move forward.
Okay, interesting. Now I have another question for you. It's like, let's pretend we're still in the superhero world, right? And let's say, Carl, you have a superpower, you can time travel. Okay. So you can time travel and talk to past Carl to give him business advice. Okay. So that's the only thing you can do. So what would you say today for the past Carl, like a business advice you wish you kind of knew, kind of serving past self in a way, like 10, 20 years ago, you name it. Like, I wish I knew that back in the day. And I know we're always growing and it's part of our journey, right? But if you had that opportunity, what would you tell him? Or I
Yeah.
mean, you.
I love the game Time Machine. I play Time Machine all the time with my clients. So I love Time Machine. I love your bent on it. I think for me, again, I tell stories. I grew up in a family where my parents are like the DIY family. They do everything. My parents in their 80s and they still mow the lawn. My dad luckily doesn't go up on the roof anymore to patch it, but he was in his 70s. Okay. So while that's admirable, and the fact that I grew up with a mindset of if you want something done, just figure it out, which enabled me to be an entrepreneur. But the strength is also my weakness for playing superhero, right? So my strength is I can do anything I have a confidence I'll put my mind to it. The weakness there is I'm not asking other people to do it for me or with me or as part of my team. So what I would tell past Carl is really learn what team means. Really learn how to not delegate, because I don't think delegate's the right word. Delegate to me sounds like, can you do this thing for me? And they're like, sure, I'll wash the dishes. Like, teaming is helping someone truly understand where you want to go, get them enrolled that they want to go there too. And then not overnight and not in one sentence, but like through a series of communication and working together, helping them see it more and more and more and share how they want to solve it, and then getting them to own it and hopefully do a better job than you will. So it's not delegate quick. It's how do we redesign how work gets done and growth happens as a team versus a leader delegating. I was horrible at that. And my life would have been so much easier if I would have learned that lesson. So strength
Nice.
and weakness is the same.
My dad is turning 79 today. Oh, happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday.
Dad. Yeah. And same story. Like he cuts grass today. He's living his dream house and all that. He doesn't really need to. I'm not sure if that's like a generational thing, but I have that in me today. And I had to let go a lot of it, which is like, hey, you want something done, do it yourself. That type of mentality.
Exactly.
But it caps you, right? Because every time it relies on you, and then you're in a business situation, you're like, you need help, man. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to build a team. So I
Absolutely.
really love the reminder. Really love that. Now, if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, and by the way, we're going to have all the links in the description, okay, Carl? But what's the best way that people can find you and connect with you?
Yeah, I'll give you 3. The simplest is going to our primary website, improving sales performance, filling out the contact form and saying you want to talk. The second is going to LinkedIn, finding me. I respond to everyone that connects. So send me a connection message. I heard you talk with Pedro. I want to talk to you. Do you have an idea? And I'll respond. The third is, we haven't talked about this, but one of my favorite books of the 3 I wrote is called Iceberg Selling. So if you need an image to remember an iceberg and iceberg selling. And if you type in icebergselling.com, you can find me that way too. But yeah, I'm definitely someone that believes in being accessible and easy to find and respond to people that reach out. So thank you for asking.
Okay. Well, first of all, I feel like the need to highlight parts of our conversation today. Okay. Let's start with the origin story when you told me it was an accident. Just as a superhero, that is so funny. I mean, that is hysterical. I'm thinking about Peter Parker and all that, and all the superheroes that went through accident. You just happens to get the superpower of coaching. Okay, so there's that. Super cool. And also, when that Karen lady was asking you, and you got, whoa, that question is super hard. Take it easy, lady. Right? It's like it's like a curveball you're not expecting, and I can really resonate with that because I worked at consulting firms. I worked at bank, and I'm a coach myself too. Right? So sometimes at birthday parties, that was a curveball. It's like, oh my God, Brittany's gonna ask me what do I do? It's like, and I'm not in a scenario that in an environment that is business, and I'm like, because I was used to an identity at the end of the day, So that's
Absolutely.
one thing. Another thing I would say is like when I asked about you, like, hey, onboard me, let's look how does it look like to be onboarded in your business. You're like, first, I'm gonna learn about what you're trying to solve. I love that, man. That is so cool. You're not pushing someone into something. You're like, first of all, let's see if it's a good fit. And when you're mentioning if it's a good fit, I really like also a powerful reminder how protective you are and how you qualify the leads or the people you're going to end up working with, right? Because at the end of the day, it has to be something towards alignment there. It needs to exist so you guys can both help yourself. It's not just, it's the trade, you're trading services, they're putting money into it, but it's like, it's your time, it's your business and all that. And it makes sense to protect that because you're very values driven, it sounds like. So this is my long-winded way of saying, Carl, I appreciate what you do and I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today. Great having you on.
Yeah, thank you for letting me share my stories. It was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.